glory to the world till he died. And these are the words he said. He said, do all you can with what you have and the time you have and the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can. Holy Mother of India, how in the second of war. Somebody asked, why do you do these things? She said, this is what I came here for. She said, do all you can. Do all you can. You have the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can. Do all This is a gift they gave to us to share wherever we go. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Now I understand what they wanted us to know. You can do all you can, what you have and the time you have and the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can. Do all you can with what you have and the time you have and the place you are. Do all you can.
Do what you can. Do all you can.
A little boy in Africa.
Do all you can.
Holy Mother from India. Do all you can. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Do all you can.
Do all you can.
Do all you can.
Do all you can. Do all you can.
Good morning. That one won't come off. Grab the other one.
This one, okay. Well, welcome to Unity. Oh, we had a little sunshine yesterday. That was fabulous, wasn't it? Hi, do all you can. Well, we do. For who we are, we do a lot. So, Vondra, you may have noticed, has an injury. She has to keep her finger up. She was unloading rocks out in the front, trying to build a drainage in a wall, and crush. So.
But I'm not flipping everybody off.
And yesterday at WOW, I mean, that tornado didn't stop anybody. We had a crowd, even though they had to go into the hall for just a little bit, but we had a lot of fun yesterday. So we do all we can here, and we're just so glad to see all of you. And if there's anyone that's new here, Linda probably greeted you at the door, but we do have a packet if you're interested. And I'm glad to see all the faces here on this wonderful morning. Chris Johnson is our speaker, and it's always a treat to have you, Chris. You always tell such good stories, and y'all, he tried a PowerPoint. So we're going to see how that goes. That's new for Chris, but I think that'll be fun too. So
Do all you can.
Do all you can. That's right. Hey, that could be the mantra this week. Okay. So let's greet each other and then we'll come back to the prayer.
A lot of you know this song, so I want to hear some noise out there. I'm ready for a miracle.
And even if you don't know it, you do after the first verse.
That's right. We'll sing it through twice, just because we can.
Yes, we can.
In fact, we'll sing it through faster a second. I'm for a miracle. I'm ready for a miracle. Ready for a miracle today. I've got my mind in tune for one. Ready to experience one. I'm ready for a miracle today. My mind is open, ready to receive it. My heart is open, open all the way. I do accept a miracle. I do accept a miracle. I do accept a miracle today. I do receive a miracle. I do receive a miracle. Do receive a miracle today. A little faster. I'm ready for a miracle. I'm ready for a miracle. I'm ready for a miracle today. I've got my mind in tune for one. Ready to experience one. I'm ready for a miracle today. My mind is open, ready to receive it. My heart is open, open all the way. I do accept a miracle. I do accept a miracle. I do accept a miracle today. I do receive a miracle. I do receive a miracle. I do receive a miracle today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Pat Walter. I'm your prayer chaplain for today. I want to call your attention to our prayer box. If you have any prayer requests, you can do there, or I will be here after service in the back. If you have a personal prayer you'd like to have someone sit and share with you and enforce your power of good and prayer intent. We also have our Christ candle that's lit, which is a reminder to us that we have the light within us, always present wherever we are and whatever is happening in our world. I will say this morning, I'm going to ask you to hold a family in special prayer. I do not know their names. You know, my grandson is a volunteer firefighter. Yesterday, they went on a rescue call for a traffic accident, and it was a young family, firefighter from another city, his girlfriend and their two little children. The accident was so severe, it ejected the children out of the car. The 2-year-old was still in his car seat, has a broken arm, and he is having air removed from his lungs. He has a very serious condition. The little girl is in severe condition also. She's 6. The mother has a skull fracture. The gentleman who was driving was pinned in the vehicle. They had to pry him out. I do not know their names. I know the children are at Children's Hospital. The guys from the station were already there visiting. They're going to go again tomorrow. So when you say your prayers today and you're doing your meditation, please hold that family in light and love for healing so that they can totally recover from the injuries that they had yesterday. So at any time, you can include anyone, anywhere in your prayers. We're celebrating the recovery of Jeannie Bailey's dad, who not only went from a serious condition to a younger than he was 20 years ago celebration of dancing and partying with his wife for his birthday. So miracles are happening. Receive your miracle. This morning, our daily word is, I see my life clearly. And I think that's what each of us are looking for. What am I going to do? Am I doing the right thing? Where do I go from here? Am I in the right place? Yes, you are. So if you would join with me now in our statement of being, which restates this and affirms it to your consciousness. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. You can see I'm pushing spring. Wisdom is our power of the month, and the color is yellow, and I like yellow. I love the daffodils that are coming up everywhere. That's my favorite. So we're pushing spring. I mean, it was 80 yesterday, right? After being 20, going to 80 is cool beans for a California kid, okay? This is also the beginning of Lent. We had Ash Wednesday this week. And in Unity, we use Lent as symbolizing the time of transformation, the time of change, and with the new flowers that are springing forth, the bulbs that are lying quiet all winter long, now they're beginning to burst. I love to go out when my hyacinths are blooming and the whole fragrance just fills my whole home. That's one of the times I get Sandy outside on the front porch. Today she's not feeling too well, so the hyacinths are fading today. But Lent also begins in the winter and it ends in spring. It symbolizes our transformation from all our negative judgments and not condemnation, judgments, and changes us into positive ideas. So at this moment, if you quietly settle, close your eyes if you're comfortable, find a position that you can relax, and open your heart space to that sacred space within. As we become still, we also are aware that we're always judging. We're always making choices, whether we're consciously aware or not. But judging does not mean condemning. What do we use to make our evaluations? How do we choose them? Are there any we wish to change? Take this time of Lent to judge how we apply our truth. We in Unity use denials and affirmations to clear us and show us the wisdom of our true nature. Through my inner power of understanding and wisdom, differences become a diverse banquet of creative expression. I see differences with curiosity, wonder, and awe, an opportunity to enrich my life and expand my worldview. When I find myself resisting or emphasizing differences, I shift my thinking. I take a few moments to contemplate the unity of all life. The miracle is that all appearances are simultaneously occurring within the mind of God, the One. I affirm to myself, I now use my wisdom to wisely judge how I apply my understanding of truth. I now use my wisdom to wisely judge how I apply my understanding of truth. And now I give thanks, and I am filled with gratitude. And so it is. Amen.
Searching for answers, searching for truth. Just had to break bread, the feast was before me. just had to break bread. The feast was before me. I had breakfast with an angel, fed my body and my soul. But I was going nowhere, cause nowhere was my goal. These habits of not owning up what I'm trying to do are keeping me from sharing what is true. Are keeping me from sharing what is true.
Jesus, he made this point to me, that limiting desires is not the way to be. To keep one's talents hidden is not the point at all. You have to learn to trust our playing small. You have to learn to trust our playing small.
Hallowed be thy name,
Spirit has lit my flame. I'll never be the same. Hallowed be thy name, Spirit has lit my flame. I'll never be the same.
My spirit, I never felt such love. I used to think he was a guy that ruled from up above. Now I know the truth, this presence lives inside of my heart. All that I was searching inside me from the start. Hallowed be thy name, Spirit has lit my flame. Be the same. Hallowed be thy name. Spirit has lit my flame. I'll never be the same. Hallowed be thy name. Spirit has lit my flame. I'll never be the same.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. Those of you who were brave enough to get up on the first day of daylight savings time. Jeannie finally got brave enough to give me the controller for the slides. She wouldn't let me touch it until it was time, which gives you an idea how much I actually contributed to the pictures. I had ideas. I did have ideas, but I'm gonna move this out of the way so that kind of minimize damage, collateral damage up here. Well, good morning. Apparently this morning I'm talking about a naturally abundant, and it is a rather abundant universe if you look at it. I got kind of carried away because it's sort of fun when you really start looking. Let's see if this will work. All right. This is the Milky Way. We're somewhere near the outer edge of it. I tried to pick us out, but I couldn't quite see it. And what we really would see would just simply be the sun and not the planets. Their estimate, and it's so big they're only estimating, that there's around 250 billion stars in the Milky Way. That's a lot of stars. If you add planets onto that, that's quite a bit, isn't it? There's something going on out there, surely. We're probably not the only ones. Just to give you an idea, because we're going to be looking at some numbers here. How big is a number? I just said a billion, 350 billion. 1,000 1,000s is a million. 1,000 millions is a billion. It takes 1,000 millions to make a billion. Trillions are not a little more than a billion. They're 1,000 more than a billion. And quadrillions, which is kind of getting up there, is 1,000 trillions. So we are looking at some pretty big numbers here. So 250 billion suns, not even to count the planets that may be circling around them, is a big number. And guess what? It's not the only galaxy, nor the only sort of thing out there. This is kind of an amazing picture of, I'm not exactly sure what, but it's galactic material and another galaxy. That could be a whole other 250 billion. Well, wait a minute, there's more than 2 galaxies? I think there are more than 2 galaxies. Let's take a look. That's a picture of galaxies in deep space. That's just a hint. They're estimating there's about 100, wait for it, 100 billion galaxies. Almost a trillion. And this is right, you can see that. Almost a trillion galaxies. And of course, if we missed a few, it might be a trillion galaxies, right? So that's a big number when you add that to 250 billion, and I don't think we're supposed to be a particularly large galaxy. So that leaves quadrillion in the dust. By the time you multiply 100 billion times 250 billion, that's a lot of stars. Multiply that by the number of planets, and you begin to get some idea of the magnitude, the magnificence, the vastness, the opulence, the abundance of the universe. Now, what's this? Anybody know? Yep, red blood cells or corpuscles going through a vein or an artery. How many do you suppose there are of those in our body? In one body. 20 to 30 trillion is their estimate. In one body. In one body. And they're constantly being remade and made and remade and made and remade and made, and they're constantly working for us every day. Right now, I am actually, believe it or not focused on the oxygen exchange with my red blood corpuscles. Right? Are you? You weren't anyway till a minute ago, and you still can't keep up with it. I dare you to keep up with that. That process is going on automatically, opulently, fantastically, abundantly, on its own. So whether we go big or we go small, and that's just, some of the cells in the body. And then there's the whole thing about just plain life around us. Flowers. Wonder how many quadrillion flowers there are in the world. Not to mention the number of different species. That's just flowers. What about the green when you walk out in the spring in Arkansas into the woods and green just crowds everywhere, just fills you up. Fields of wildflowers, daffodils even. I'm sorry, they're not daffodils, they're, what are they? Jonquils. Yeah. Jonquils. It's just everywhere, and it's extraordinary. Women, you may not know this, but you probably do. Women actually are born with all the eggs they'll ever have or need through their life. Did you know that? Most people do. Born with all the eggs that they'll ever need. So that's what, maybe 200-300. This is bringing it down to home. She'll need a bigger apron, okay? But how many eggs is a woman actually born with? She's going to ovulate with 200 or 300 in her life. You know what, she maybe needs 500 to start with, 1,000, maybe a couple of thousand, just to make sure there's plenty of spares on the shelf. 1 million eggs. That's what a woman is born with, average, roughly. Actually, it's 999,959, but who's counting? So there's a lot going on there. Most women would be somewhat upset about the idea of being mother to 1 million kids. Sounds like a little much, right? Am I right? Yeah, I think so. Even 10% of that would be a lot. So there's a tremendous amount of not only abundance in nature and in life, but a lot of extravagance. Uh-oh, that's not the next one. Did I skip it?
What were you looking for?
Well,
There's a blank in there.
okay. Well, right there's not a picture of people writing. Anyway, let's go back one. We'll just stay there for a minute. This now is a picture of a snowflake. So you have to picture a snowflake there. Because it isn't simply about numbers. If you were looking at a snowflake, I would guarantee you, if you hadn't seen that picture before, you had never seen that snowflake. You had never seen that shape, right? Supposedly there's no two alike. Now, I don't know who's counting them all. I mean, really, But apparently there's enough potential that not every one of them, that there is enough variation that they could never duplicate. Now, I don't know. You've probably thought about how many snowflakes fall in a given, maybe you haven't. It's Arkansas. Well, if you lived in Minnesota, you would certainly think about how many snowflakes, come down in a year. And it's a lot, isn't it? Quadrillions, I'm sure, in one little snowstorm. And yet every one of these distinct, different, beautiful. Some of them even prettier than this one. I hope you have a good imagination today. It really was there before. There was actually a picture of a snowflake. They're amazing. Snowflakes are absolutely astonishing. Have you ever heard about the Chinese poets that used to write poems? And there weren't just Chinese, there were others too. Fold them up and drop them in the stream and let them float away. They used to do that, take their creativity. I had a thought about a story I wanted to tell yesterday. I thought, I'll tell that, it'll be a great story. It was gone. And nature laughs at me. Nature says, you know what, in that amount of time, 649 trillion quadrillion snowflakes melted. And look what I made. Much better than your idea, much more unique than your idea. And they all just melted away. It's okay. There is an opulence. I hope you understand the word opulence. It just means abundance, and for some reason it's on my head today. It means very luscious sort of abundance. There's always a lot of everything. Now, sometimes the abundance we don't love. For example, we might not have an abundance of money. Typically in that situation, we'll find ourselves complaining that we have an abundance of bills, abundance of expenses, often unexpected expenses. Where did those come from? I never have to deal with that, but I don't have any money this month, so here they are. So there is abundance. It's sometimes a question of how do we invite the abundance that we want into our lives. And in point of fact, there's a lot of ways. You know a lot of them, but we'll go through a few of them and we'll explore it maybe from some different angles and kind of look at things, because abundance begins in here. Because the most profoundly abundant thing in the universe is one. It is the unity of consciousness, which is the intelligence out of which all of this comes. The intelligence that crafts every single snowflake and then melts it. Around here, they melt practically before they hit the ground, don't they? So this intelligence is everywhere, and it's in everything. The abundance on this earth is plenty, actually. There's enough food right now on the earth to feed everybody on the earth. Right now, there's enough money for everybody to have a decent living. It's a distribution problem, isn't it? So there's two ways of handling that. This is one of them. This is a reminder for me to talk about a rickshaw driver, with a bicycle rickshaw who lived in India. He was in a movie that we had recently at a Oneness movie night. He had a rickshaw that he pedaled around. He said it was a little tough in the wet season, sometimes muddy, sometimes pretty deep water, but he was very grateful for it. He had a little family, 3 kids, I think, a wife that he loved. When he would come home at night to his 2-sided canvas house with a roof, and I think it had 2 sides, which means that 2 sides, there was no wall. And again, in the rainy season, he said it was a little awkward at times. If it got windy, that was kind of tough. But he was very grateful for all of that. When he was coming home, when he would be coming home at night, his son would see him coming, and a big smile would break out on his face, and he'd wave, and he'd say, "Hi, Dad," and he would run up to him. And the man felt wealthy. What more could I want? So it comes from both sides. We all know of billionaires who are not happy in the slightest. And all they want to do is get more billions because then they'll be happy. Do you know there was a study that checked out money versus happiness? And guess what? People who had more money were happier up to a point. And that point wasn't as high as you might think. I think it was like less than $100,000. I don't remember the exact number now. $100,000 a year. Because people had their needs met. They didn't have to worry so much. They weren't so stressed. So they felt more comfortable. But people who had more money than that weren't noticeably more happier. I just said that, more happier. I did. She was really reluctant to give me this, I have to tell you. So they weren't more happier. And the reason is pretty clear, because money does not buy happiness. And when we're talking about abundance, we don't really want to just talk about money. We want to talk about an appreciation for life. We want to talk about some of those beautiful things that happen, like relationship, friendship, partnership, just plain love. There's all kinds of things that we would like to have as abundance in our lives, and which are abundance in a beautiful way. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a Mercedes-Benz. If you want a Mercedes-Benz, maybe you can have one, if that's important to you. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying abundance is about the heart, really. Here's a man, we'll say he's the guy in the second one, because it's not really a picture of him, but I'm going to call it him. He's riding along on his bicycle, fighting with the water and the mud, and happy because he has what for him is an abundant life. But what we often have is a disease called comparison. Does anyone have that disease? See, in a way, he was lucky, because his disease of comparison was he knew people who didn't have a bicycle rickshaw, right? Life was tough. They only had one side in their house. So, hey, I'm not saying he didn't have any of that disease, but it wasn't as bad. In this country, it's thrown at us. Why can't you have a nicer car? What's wrong with you that you don't have a bigger house? Comparisons, as my grandpa used to say, and being a grandpa, that was years ago, so he may have been ahead of our time a little. Comparisons are odious. Odious is a very, I think, beautiful way to say hateful, in case it's not a familiar word. Odious. But we do it. We're heir to that. So one of the things we have to do is learn to be in the moment, be here now, which is one of the first steps we have to take. And one of the ways that we can begin, and I'm going to look into some things a little more now, I'm kind of winging it because I don't have many more slides and I don't have my notes, so whee! Gratitude. So much abundance begins with a simple gratitude for what we already have, for the opportunities that are already there, for living in a country today which has some opportunities to make a little extra money, or a lot. Some people don't have so much opportunity. So we can enjoy that, we can appreciate that. And if we don't worry too much about comparing our car to the next door neighbor's, we can enjoy that a lot. Because we still have to start here. So gratitude is something that opens the door. Not only does gratitude make us feel better, when we're grateful, we feel abundant, don't we? We might wake up in the morning and just say 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 things that we're grateful for. When you start out feeling grateful for what you have today, here, now, you create a feeling or a sense of abundance in your life. And you can be grateful that all the snowflakes melting on the window pane are different. Okay? You can appreciate that fact. So gratitude is very important. It also is important because the divine is a little bit like anything else in our world, in one sense. If someone brings you a gift and you say, "Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Gosh, I really enjoyed this. This is perfect. I'm going to put it on my mantle, or I'm going to eat it with my friends, or I'm going to, whatever it might be appropriate. This is fantastic. I'm so happy." Is your friend inclined to give you something again? How about if you just say, "Oh, thanks." Stick it, on the shelf and forget about it. Are they inclined to give you something again? It's not just their small-mindedness. There's something about a vacuum that gets created to draw things to you when you're grateful. It's a way of drawing it to you. And it prepares the mind and the heart to be open. Because if you're grateful for what you have, you feel more worthy to have something more, because you know you're appreciating. Okay, we could talk all time about gratitude. Forgiveness is another good one to help clear the decks, to get things out of the way. Because it really is about how are we blocking all of this abundance, all of these snowflakes, these flowers, these cascades of worlds that surround us. We block that abundance. It's in us that we stop it. Okay, she did a really cool slide. I'll just tell you she did. And we're going to go back to my favorite slide because it's going to be up a while. So I hope you like it. A little reminder in the background. Be grateful for what you have. Okay, one of the reasons I'm talking about abundance is I went to a course that Oneness put on called The Field of Abundance in Florida. And Jeannie said, share some of that. And it was pretty awesome. I'm not going to try to duplicate it. I'm not going to try to teach it. I would just mess it up because it's way beyond anything. And it was highly experiential. But I would like to just draw on a few ideas, a few things about taming the abundance and pouring it into our pockets, whether it's friendship, whether it's money, whether it's the place that you've always wanted to live. How do we direct this to us? And one of the first things that we worked on there was something they called calm. Calm is essentially, that peace that surpasseth all understanding, but they planted that in us in a very deep way. And it's a beginning place, because in the calm we can meet what comes to us. The next thing is connection. Without connection, not much happens. It's connection to the divine, and it's connection to each other, to the world. Nobody ever got rich being disconnected. Somewhere, some way along, you need to get rich with connections in order to enrich your life in whatever way suits you and feels right to you. And the third thing is creation. Creativity. You need some creation. You need to be able to create. Wealth of any kind is about creating something. And this comes out of the first two. I'm going to give you an example of a kind of wealth that has nothing to do with what I've just been showing you, except, of course, it does on some very subtle level, consciousness level. I got a son who, for quite a few years now, seems to be going along quite well. He's had his ups and downs, but he's been pretty stable, pretty happy. And I got a text from him Tuesday this week saying, hey, Dad, I'm scaring myself. Next text. I think I might kill myself. Oh, maybe I should get back to him. So I did. And one of the most stable and consistent things in his life, several of the most stable things, were blown up in his life in about an hour. And the fallout from that hour. His story is that he wasn't really the cause of that. And I know him pretty well, and I kind of know when he's lying and when he's telling the truth. And I believe him. This happened sort of out of the blue. He made some mistakes. He didn't handle it perfectly, but he did pretty well considering. And he kept his heart in it. But his whole life, seemingly, blew up. And he just didn't know what to do. He was desperate. Because I had a level of calm, I was able to hear that without panicking. I was able to be there for him as a conscious presence. When he took off driving, and he's in Utah, so once you take off driving, it's not like here there's a farm in a few miles. No. There may not be anything for 100 miles. So he took off driving. He told his roommate that he was going to be going out of town, or just going to take off. So when I finally heard from him, hours later, again, coming from a state of calm, I didn't have to say, "Why haven't you called me? What's wrong with you? Don't you know I'm worried about you? Me, 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 me. And by the way, me, 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 me. And weren't you thinking about me, 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 me?" I didn't have to do that. It wasn't necessary, because there was this calm there. And so I simply talked to him about it. He was by the way, on the outskirts of Las Vegas. Just where you want a young man he's not that young, he's over 40, but to me it's young. Just where you want him to be when he's desperate and in danger with drugs and alcohol. Las Vegas, right? He's only 500 miles from home, not a big deal. Again, I didn't panic. I said, okay, I got it. He started driving. After a while, the next big place on the map was Las Vegas. So I just supported him. I said, okay, well, find a room, go to bed, get a good rest, take care of yourself, if that's what you can do, And I allowed him to express what he needed to express and feel what he needed to feel. The next thing I know, he's calling me about midnight, Pacific time, 2 o'clock here, and saying, gosh, I don't think I like Las Vegas by myself. It's not that much fun, really. And so I'm going to start home at midnight. And so I said, well, why don't you find a place and stop overnight? Which eventually is what he did. In fact, he did it after a couple of hours, but he didn't text me anything clear to indicate that, so I had to worry again, where is he, what's going on? But again, the thoughts come in. They do. The thoughts come in. Hey, he fell asleep, he rolled his car, he's in a ditch somewhere dying, and I can't do anything about it. But the difference is when the mind has peace, when it has the calm inside, those don't take root. They blow through like tumbleweeds. They come and they go. And you stay in the sense of, until I know better, he's in a hotel sleeping, and he was. And it went on and on for the rest of the week. This has been going on. But I found that I was able to, by being calm, was able to connect with him. Be connected to him and stay connected to him. And because we were connected, we were kept finding creative ways to work through the next step. He's not out of the woods, but he's better. And I believe he's going to be fine. But his whole life, essentially, and not his whole life, but 90% of it, 80% of it, was turned upside down. So it's not a quick fix. Anyway, this is how it works with creation of whatever kind of abundance you want to have. The same kind of process. If you can find the calm, if you can find the connection and the creation, growing out of one another, life is abundant. Now, I had a lot of suggestions and ideas for how to do that, but I had a lot more of an abundance of ideas than I had an abundance of time. So, one of the things that is really important, I think, it's been my experience for many, many years, is that meditation is a beautiful way to connect to that sort of one consciousness. And there's many forms of meditation. I'm going to just play with one right now that's very brief, since we are running out of time. Oh, you have a little bit of time left? Okay, she says I'm okay. So this will be very brief for starters. We may do a couple, we'll see. You don't even need to turn the light out unless you want to, because this is one that you can practice anytime, any place, with your eyes open. And that's why I'm introducing it, because it's the kind of thing, it's something from my awakening coaching teacher, Arjuna Arda. And if you'll just kind of sit and look forward at something, whatever feels comfortable to look at, and just notice it for a moment. And take a breath in, and as you breathe out, let your attention, not your eyes moving, but just your attention expand to a little bit bigger area. And bring a breath in again. And as you breathe out, expand that area a little larger, so that you're conscious of a larger space. And as you take a breath in, breathe out again, noticing a larger space. See as wide as you can now, as far as the eyes can see to the side. And be aware of all of that in between. And take a breath in, noticing again what you're seeing. And as you breathe out, see as high and low as you can. Again, not moving the eyes, just taking in as much as you consciously can see. And now with the breath in, when you breathe out, notice all around you. You can't see, but you can have an awareness that goes all the way around. Top, bottom, below, behind. notice that in about a minute's time, you can become very present. The mind will start quieting down. And the peace begins to flow. So there's many meditations, but it can be as simple as just stopping. You can also do something similar by noticing what's all around you, and then what you can see, then what you can hear, and what you can smell, and noticing what the body is feeling. The mind is pretty sharp, it's pretty strong, but it really doesn't have that good an ability to think about what's going wrong in your life while you're trying to keep the awareness of all this at the same time. Something's got to give. So if you get the awareness, the mind kind of lets go. And when the mind lets go, space comes in. And that space is the consciousness of calm and connection and creativity. Kind of waiting to see if anyone's going to yell at me for going too long. She says not, but there's a lot and nothing to being present and in the moment. The power of that is the power of abundance, of bringing the abundance into our lives of the things we want. Another thing is the connection. When we, they've found, they've done a lot of studies on prayer, right, in the past number of years, and they found that prayers really make a difference. Even if the person doesn't know they're being prayed for, sometimes they get better faster on average. Things like that. Okay, so prayer makes a difference. They've also found that when you pray about something bigger than yourself, it has more power. So connection is about giving. It's about sharing. Sharing your calm, sharing what you know, sharing what you have, sharing what you have in the way of talents. So calm, connection, and creation. And creation can begin quite naturally when we've taken care of the other two. That, first of all, we're in a state of gratitude. So we're grateful for our abilities. And we have confidence in them because we have calm. And that's where creation or creativity begins to flow. And that is the source, directly, the most direct source of abundance in our lives. So we all know that if we think negative thoughts, we're likely to get negative results. So this is a recipe for coming from a more positive place, more empowered place, and creating something abundant. Like a really nice rickshaw. Thank you.
I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in your faith. And I am strong every moment, every day.
My mind is willing and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts and let spirit be my guide. I vow to live a life that's real and pure and free. And I continue walking in this mystery. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release getting kinder every moment, every day. And I'm more loving every moment, every day. I will surrender every moment, every day.
I don't have a mic, I hope you can hear me, but Chris, thank you so much. Notice a theme here today. The idea of returning, past prayer, relax, and then affirming then gratitude. Chris, really, it's the same thing you do with the word, but I love that. It was calm, connect, creativity. I love that. And that's in unity, we also call that the Trinity, mind, idea, expression. You know, so that is the process. And I swear, y'all, I didn't know them to do number 5. I know that. You know that. But as we were looking at these images, I thought, wow, there is just abundance everywhere. It's, you said opulence and extravagance. Really, everywhere. And it's nice, and your meditation is so sweet this morning. But really feeling the expansion inside and out. So, wow. So we are grateful. And let us express our gratitude too in our offerings. We say together, divine love, answer me, blessed and multiply.
All that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
You do amazing things. The choice each new day brings. And with every step you take, that's the progress that you make. The reason you love is there in every gift you give. Of your life, of your dreams, you will do amazing, amazing,
is George Crook and the songwriters. I just saw that.
Oh, you know what? I think he might cancel this song. I don't know, he's not here to speak to it, but I think
Okay.
he's gonna be out of town.
Oh, okay. So we will have George Crook teaching mindfulness, another way for that calm that we're talking about. And this week is also Sounds of Unity. Yay! And you can go on the Facebook. Yes, you've got the flyers back there. Share them. You want to say anything, Laura?
Yeah, just brought some flyers to take one home to remind yourself of the bright hour in the sky or future. So you can look them up in advance and take one to share. Invite some friends, and we always have a great time the third Friday of every month.
It is really special, and it would be fun to fill this up. So, and you know what? I think toward the end of the week there's going to be sunshine. We've come on many rainy nights for Sounds of Unity this winter, but and it's still worth it. But maybe we'll have a good pre-spring night. So, and then Susan Julie will be here next week, and it is the annual meeting, and we're going to have, I hope, light snacks that you can enjoy. And we'll start the meeting right away at 11:45 if we can, or certainly by noon. And this is George Crook, and he's going to be speaking March 24th, but he's doing, it's only an hour, you guys, and it's an introduction to his program, and I've heard really good things about him, so that's 6:30 this Wednesday night, and then he's also going to stay afterwards and do an hour extra on the 24th. And then also on the 23rd, we've got Discover Your Golden Shadow with Joy Caffrey. And she does wonderful workshops. And that's a Saturday workshop. I think, yes, there's the information. So that's going to be from 10 to 12:30 on the 23rd on Saturday. And you can talk to me about, arrangements for that. And we still have our diaper drive. 2 more weeks on the diaper drive. And so see Jeannie if you just want to give money. Are we getting a lot of diapers?
We are. We're getting a lot of diapers and wipes. We have one diaper bag, and I have collected some money from some people, so by the 24th, whatever is, I think we need more of, I'll just go out and get it, and then Tim and I will deliver it to our house on the 25th.
Sounds great. Okay, so yes, Pam.
And don't mind what's with the cashiers when you have a bunch of diapers and you have no kids around.
Do they?
But all different sizes and everything she likes to wear.
Well, there we are, the town hall meeting, and I've been working on the budget, and I don't know, I've just got a real different feeling about this year. I think I'm really excited to share all the news with you all and kind of review our last year. So please be here for that. And tell people that, like today, we got some missing members, and let them know that we all need to get together because this is about our community. So I think we're ready for a prayer for protection. Yes.
Yesterday, we didn't do a special thing because we were all hiding from the raindrops, so I thought we'd save it for today and sing happy birthday to Archie over here who had a special birthday.
Birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Jeannie, happy birthday to you.
Circle up.
Circle up, cowboys. Circle away.
Let's say together.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God